Hi, I'm Brian Zygarlicke from V&H Heavy Trucks out of Marshfield, Wisconsin. This morning we're going to be going over a pre-trip inspection before you head out on the road. One of the first things I do when I'm coming up to my truck is I look underneath as I'm coming up and going over, trying to make sure there's no drips, leaks, anything that I can see. Now that I'm underneath the hood, I have what they call a driver's vehicle inspection report. You can also do it off of your logbooks too. A lot of you I know are going to electronic logs now and everything else, and that's where you need to start your pre-trip out in and stuff. But I like to use this sheet a lot of times just going over things to make sure I cover everything and don't miss something when you get sidetracked. First thing I like to do is check my oil level. I'm going to pull it out. On this one you're not going to be able to see because it is new engine, it's clean, but I am full. Here I have the fuel filter. I'm looking for any leaks, drips, anything along the along the fuel lines. The filter itself, there's nothing there. Then I have my power steering fluid. With this one I don't have to actually open up the cap and check the dipstick. I can see that my fluid level is in the okay position. You got a maximum way up here, a minimum down here, and I'm right at between where it's cold and hot, so it's really good. Then I got a transmission fluid level, and I want to check that. That being said, I can see this one is full. Now I'm doing that. I'm checking alongside the engine for my air compressor, anything like that, any leaks, drips coming out of there. There's obviously nothing, but those are things you need to go over. This is my fill level for my windshield washer fluid. From that position, you're not going to be able to see it, but there's a tube here and I can see there's fluid in here. So I know I got plenty of fluid. You have to make sure you're never out of windshield washer fluid. That is a violation. Looking back here, I'm looking at my steering box, making sure my steering linkage is all okay. My hoses are all hooked up, not dripping, leaking. While I'm doing that, I'm looking at my shocks to make sure there's no fluid leaking out of those. All the bolts, nuts are tight. My springs, very important to look them over, make sure there are no cracked spring leaves or anything, because you cannot continue on with one broke. At that time, I'm looking at my brake chamber here for my wheel, checking to make sure all of that's connected, slack adjuster, everything's hooked up right. While I'm on this side, I'd like to do my wheels right away as I go around the truck from front to back. Checking my tread depth, making sure there's enough tread on the tires. Looking at that, making sure my tires are in good shape, no cracks, anything in the sidewalls. Lug nuts, making sure all of those are tight. Valve stem caps are on, rims are in good condition. Now I'm going to my fuel tank, making sure that my straps are in good condition, no cracks, it's all tightened down good. My wires are plugged in for my fuel gauge. Steps are in good shape, not loose. Now we're going to the depth tank, DEF. It's coming on all new trucks now. Some of your older ones may not have it, but on this particular one has it. We have to make sure the tank is secure, cap is tight. Then I'm going to go up to my IFTA sticker, making sure my IFTA sticker is on the truck and current. Very important. Now I'm looking at my windows and my mirrors to make sure they're clean. They're not all dirty, grubby, grimy. Then I'm going to open up my door and I'm looking for my DOT inspection sticker. Mine is current, up to date. They're always done in 1-year annual inspections, and you must have that done by the date of inspection, and I have one here on the door. Saying that, you have a hard copy, what they call. You always have to have either this in the truck or the sticker on the truck. Your hard copy has to stay at your workplace. They have to have this on file. Okay, now that I'm around to the passenger side, I'm going to be going out looking for some of the same things I did on the other side. I'm looking at my clamps, hoses, making sure these are tight. AC lines are good. Got the AC compressor here. Alternator, making sure wires are good, everything's hooked up. Then I'm going to my air filter. This one I have a gauge on here so I can check it right from here. No need to open this up. I can tell if it's clean or dirty. This one is clean. Then I have my radiator fluid. I can see that it's full right from here. Radiator cap is on and it's tight. Going down it, I'm checking all the other hoses, making sure there's no leaks. I have a dual power steering on this truck. Down here I have the second one. I'm doing the same thing as I did the other side. Checking for any leaks, drips, anything loose, nuts, bolts. Going down, looking at the steering linkage, making sure that's okay. The springs and the shock, same as the other side, looking to make sure shocks aren't leaking. There's no cracks in the springs. Looking at my brake chamber. On a pre-trip inspection, you have to go over everything on both sides of the truck, not just one side. It's front to back, both sides, all the time. I have my exhaust system, just checking to make sure my shield is on good. Exhaust is tight, no leaks. Clamps, everything are tight. Steps, same thing. They're all tight and in good working order. Going up here, I'm looking at my drive line. My U-joints, making sure all the nuts, bolts, everything are in there. Drive line is in good shape. All my brackets, hangers are good. Got my air tanks, making sure the straps are all okay. Air lines are all hooked up. Got 4 different air tanks here. Need to check them all. Looking at my cross members, checking to make sure these are all bolted on, no cracks, nothing on these. Everything frame, making sure there's no cracks, illegal welds, drill holes in here. Here I'm looking at my air dryer, just checking to make sure all my nuts, bolts are tight, my clamp, that it's on tight, secure to the frame. Looking for my air lines, making sure they're all hooked up and everything else. Now moving further to the back, I'm doing the same thing as I did in the front. I'm looking at my spring hangers, nuts, bolts, springs, making sure nothing is loose, cracked, anything else. While I'm back here making sure my brake chamber is okay, lines are hooked up, everything's working there. Again, tire depth and tread on all of them. Checking to make sure there's no cracks on the sidewalls, anything. Don't see any infractions on them. You got to make sure you check your tire pressures. A lot of people will take a ball peen hammer and hit them so they're hard and everything else. If one feels soft, grab the air gauge, check it, make sure you got the proper air in them. Looking down here, I'm looking at my nuts for the wheel axle, making sure that that's not leaking. Anything else, valve stem is in good shape. Cap is on, rims are all in good shape. Looking here, I'm looking at my shock absorber, making sure this one isn't leaking. Airbags are in good shape. All the bolts are on, everything else. Air lines are all in good shape. Same here between the wheels. I got another spring hanger bracket, checking those springs, making sure those are all in good shape, nothing's cracked. Another air chamber for your rear sets, making sure all the lines are hooked up on there in good shape and everything else. And your last shock absorber on this side, doing this on all sides of the truck, and your airbag on the very back is in tight, secure. Same thing with your other set of wheels, and this is done on all sides of your truck. My backup alarm is right here. This one's easy to get at. Most of them aren't that easy, and we'll be going over that shortly. Now we're going to be going to the inside of the cab. First thing when I open the door, I want to look for, because this is 99% of the time where they're mounted, your fire extinguisher. Making sure the clamp is on, it's tight, it's secure. I want to check my fire extinguisher and make sure it is in the green. If not, it needs to be replaced. Here I have my triangle kit in here. Then the next thing I'm going to look over is I'm going to start my truck. From here, one of the first things I like to test, my horn. Both of those are working correctly. Looking at my gauges, making sure my volts and the oil pressure are both up in working condition, making sure they're right. Then you look at your other all your gauges, you're checking them over. Your speedometer, your fuel level, this particular one. We have a desk system, so I need to check and make sure that is full also. My air gauges are working. Now I'm going to do my windshield washer. Making sure that my windshield wipers are working in good condition and my windshield washer fluid is working. My heater. Making sure my fan turns on, it's good. Making sure the defrost works. And that's all working good. Now that all my other stuff is working, I want to check my mirrors, make sure they're in the right proper position for my particular self. And my steering, making sure it's in a comfortable, in good position to where I like to drive it. From there, we're going to go to our outside now. I'm going to turn on my headlights, marker lights, clearance lights, and I'm going to go check my lights. While I do that, I like to turn on one flasher at a time. I don't like to use my flashers because I have seen trucks when you turn on flashers work, and when you use your turn signals, something won't work, or a wire got mixed up because there was work being done on it, and they're in the wrong position. You turn on your left, and your right one's blinking. So therefore, I always do one at a time. Here I'm checking and listening for a backup alarm. I have my window open, so I know my backup alarm is working